And we're live.
I've got a article that Chiz linked us from the Metro across the pond, and let's give this guy a shot. Let's listen to his take. He says what follows. There you go. He says, if a child is old enough to talk, it's old enough to have sex.
What the fuck?
And so clearly this is
what a looker this guy is.
This man is
look like to you?
Abhorrent. What does he look like? I don't know. He looks like a guy that I wouldn't want to have to play in like a Friday Night Magic.
Oh, you know where Kyle's going with
It
that.
looks like
now I know where Kyle's going.
It looks like Wings of Redemption. Fuck the yellow M&M.
The yellow M&M.
I'm seeing Wings of Redemption's successful gastric bypass surgery in this dude.
Scroll a little further down and you'll disagree.
Wings is much better looking than this guy, honestly. Wings is a good looking guy. I don't want to just look. Give me 5 seconds, and then I really want to talk about this pedophile. I think when Wings loses that weight, he's going to be a fine looking man. I think he's going to be getting a lot of ass. I really do. I think he's got good facial structure. I think the beard is going to I think his face is a little stretched because it's big. I think the beard is going to fill in more as his face shrinks. The skin surface area. It's same amount of hair, less surface area, right? Just makes sense. I think he's gonna be a good looking guy. He's gonna be fucking Jason Statham.
Well,
I don't think Jason Statham will ever fuck him.
Don't
put
that bar on him. Don't put that bar on.
Yeah, you're setting that bar insanely high.
All right, but
this guy. Well, here's his side of the story. He told the guy's representative legally said, Mr. Leonard said that he would always abide by the laws of whatever country he goes to. If the age of consent in Thailand is 15, then he would abide by that law. He is the Ron Seal, I don't know who that is, of pedophiles. He does exactly what he says on the tin. There's nothing on Mr. Leonard's record to suggest that he has had sexual intercourse with a child. The only thing he has ever done is downloaded child pornography.
What the fuck?
I pray you. This man is a victim of circumstance. No? All he's ever done is contribute to an industry that victimizes children worldwide.
Yeah, this guy needs a little visit from our old friend Chris Hansen. This is some disturbing stuff. We had Chris Hansen on the show a couple years ago. He was a cool guy. God, aren't pedophiles just? We have the pedophile talk like every week, but God, they're abhorrent. There's something.
You're falling exactly into his trap. He previously said that pedophiles are being persecuted like gay people 40 years ago and Jews in the Second War. Now, go ahead and make him right.
No, they're being persecuted like we persecute cockroaches and fucking rodents. All right, there should be a van that drives down in every city in America that has a picture of him with a fucking cross through him, like a Ghostbuster symbol. Like I saw a picture the other day with like rats dying from a pesticide company. I was like, that's a little hard on the nose, I guess. But if it was pedophiles up there, I'd be like, yeah, fucking gas them.
Yeah.
So I have an interesting caveat. Maybe that's not the right word. But so I saw a YouTube TED talk that kind of went viral a little bit, and it was about this little, I don't want to say little girl, she looked like a small lady, who was giving a talk about pedophilia, and the clip that they pulled from it was her talking about how we need to try to understand them and yada yada yada. So that's the clip they pulled. But I watched it, I was like, how could TED Talks have a talk and that is your subject like that? I was like, that can't be right. So I watched her full discussion, and the full discussion was she is of the mindset, which is an interesting topic. She said because she's saying pedophilia isn't a choice. She said they feel how they feel and they're sexually attracted to whoever they're sexually attracted to. Mm-hmm. So instead of shunning them, we should allow them an avenue. Hear me out. Allow them an avenue to express themselves. That way they don't act on those actions, right? Yeah. People were so disgusted with the thought of it that I don't think they really sat with that, with the notion of what she was talking about, which I ended up agreeing with, right? Which is like, okay, if you're a murderer, you're a murderer. If you feel like killing somebody, you're going to kill somebody. But if we say, okay, you're there's a sickness, whatever we want to call it, give you an avenue, to me, that heightens the chances of people, the probability of you hurting a child. Like, if we can stop one, to me, it's worth it.
Yeah. I believe that as well. I believe that it is not a choice. I don't think anyone ever woke up and said, I think I want to be a pedophile. Just like I don't think anyone ever woke up and said, I want to be gay. I think, and I don't mean to compare homosexuality to pedophilia. You know, I see conservatives do that a lot. They compare homosexuality to pedophilia and bestiality, and that's a disgusting route to take. So I don't want to make them analogous. I just think that the drive is similar in some ways, or the inability to change.
That they're both sexual preferences is the comparison you're making, right?
Yes, but one of them happens to be a loving relationship between two individuals, two adult individuals that hurts no one, consenting, and the others happens to be you're preying on the weakest, most precious thing in our society, our children. The most important thing. There's nothing more important than our children. Like, I don't have any children, but I certainly recognize how precious they are. Like, you know, like I get it. And so I definitely don't think they make that choice. I think they're driven to do it. And so the question is, does providing things like animated child porn or sex dolls that look like children, does that make them more likely to take the next step to a living child, or less likely to take the step to a living child? And if you look at like heroin use, we use methadone treatment, right? To get these people off of heroin. We give them something to fill that.
But that does lead to widespread methadone and other, you know, quasi heroin abuse, like any kind of opioid abuse.
That's
like
true.
fentanyl.
I don't think it's a perfect comparison, but I'm just saying that's an example of someone who really wants a bad thing, and we find a way to substitute it with something that's not as bad.
I'm coming down on it on the other side, but I don't have a hard and fast belief like you might convince me. I just think that when you allow something like that, like what is the middle ground they're proposing? Like young-looking dolls that they could have intercourse with and stuff like that, or like that like cartoon porn where they're like, it's okay, she may look 7, but she's a 1,000-year-old vampire, so I'm not really weird and strange.
Exactly.
Like I feel like a lot of that stuff is, it would almost be like saying to a gambling addict, all right, you can't go to a casino anymore, but what you can do is play freemium games on your phone. It still gives you a little tinge. Sure, you'll spend a little bit of money here and then, but you won't be blowing 10 grand. Like, over time, you are still plinking and activating and stimulating that same source of pleasure. And eventually it's not going to be enough, because it's almost like if someone is an intense drug user, if you give them a little bit of drug every day, it's going to be much, much harder for them to resist instead of cutting it cold turkey, because they're constantly going to be stimulating and getting that feeling of like, this is good. It's not enough, though. It's not enough. And I think that might lead them to eventually acting on their urges when they're like, this little quasi pleasure, it's not enough anymore. I need the real thing.
I think I agree with that aspect. And just to distinguish, I don't think she was talking about giving them avenues to act out their fantasies. I think she was talking about giving them avenues like
to be open and ask for help.
To be open and ask for help and not be shunned about it.
Yes.
She's asking for understanding of not having that choice, which the thought on the other side was like, that's disgusting. It's the grossest shit ever. And I mean, I 100% agree. Like, trust me, I have two daughters and 2 boys. Like, I would be under the jail 100%, no question.
Yeah.
If anything that ever got close.
Can I just interrupt you a moment?
Yeah.
Here's pedophilia is so abhorrent that you wouldn't be under the jail. We've seen that time and time again, where a child is molested, raped, and the father says, no, I've got a biological imperative here to kill that motherfucker. And they do, and sometimes it's on fucking tape. There's that famous video of that guy. Yeah. They're bringing the fucking child raper through the airport in handcuffs, and the dad walks up and goes, bang, kills him right there, drops the gun, and the cop goes, Richard, what did you do? What did you do?
Why, Richard? Why?
Fucking probation or something on that guy. They fucking the grand jury would not indict. They fucking let that guy go.
Has no one considered the third alternative of finding hot, young, supple, consenting children?
See, Woody and this Mr. Leonard have some things in common. Yeah, see, that's a way to get yourself on a database. Yeah.
Right, that's how you fucking do it. We're all talking about.
I was joking.
You brought Kyle back, right? We had him. We had him.
Yeah, I really think that kind of temptation is going to be too much for those people, and that eventually it's going to cause them to snap. Which also,
what about the avenue though? What about the avenue though? What about the avenue of
like about having a community or something? Like there's something about that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just as far as like a venting, a safe haven, therapeutically that helps them normalize it in their head to where they don't feel. I'm saying this sounds like I'm advocating or defending those fuckers.
No, you don't sound like that at all.
But all I'm trying to say is like people. At the end of the day, all of us, we just want to be understood, right? So we all just want to be understood. And so giving them that kind of avenue, whatever that may entail, and it's way above all of our pay grades to actually sit around and think about what that exactly entails. But I just think there's something to trying to understand how they feel about this situation, to that maybe like you can reach some of them and get into, because like it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. Like in our communities, as far as like Black people in this country, molestation is a big problem that never gets talked about, right? So like I understand
that Black people are pedophiles.
Not all of them, man.
But it's definitely a problem.
It's like something like you wouldn't hear a lot, but like it happens. It's prevalent. It happens.
Underreported.
Yeah, it's very underreported. I mean, and I think a lot of it has to do with the distrust of law enforcement in our communities. Like you're not going to go to the police. So and it sits and it festers, and then it becomes like this trickle down factor in our communities. But I really think there's something to letting people get in the brains of them to maybe start to affect some kind of change.
You know what a counter argument to the idea of, all right, so alcoholics, gamblers, they 12-step programs have proven to be very effective for that. You get a bunch of guys who all have this same problem together. You get them together, and it's a mixture of guys who are just now admitting they have a problem and guys who have been on the wagon for 25 years, and it can be very helpful and constructive, right? And I think it works for things like substance abuse, but I don't think it works for things like sex addiction and something like pedophilia, because putting like one of the barriers that might stop a pedophile from taking that next step is maybe they don't know how. But maybe you put them in a room with a bunch of other pedophiles, the guy's like, well, I've got a hard drive back home that you wouldn't believe, or if you, the same way that if you put these sex acts together, there's a hot chick over here who's literally addicted to sex. There's a hot guy over here who's literally addicted to sex. I feel like this meeting gets dismissed and it turns into an orgy, right? Like I would bet money that happens on a semi-regular basis at any sex addict anonymous meeting in the world.
I mean, it's definitely a fact. Like I said, it's a deep conversation. Like it's super like hot button. Like like sometimes I don't even want to talk about it with people because they feel like you're defending, and it's not
exactly.
But it's just like, but it's definitely a conversation to be had, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I feel like the community for them could go one of two ways, and they're both kind of extreme. Like if it's an in-person maybe, and it's like a, therapist led or psychologist, whatever, what have you led, where everybody's talking about their experience and the tactics they use to resist or whatever. I feel like that could be healthy. But I could also see how like online communities of this could go the path of many other online communities where you become so inculcated in your own group that it's like almost like the incel community. If you're familiar with the incel thing, Arian, it's like it's like groups of mainly guys online who are involuntarily celibate, which means they can't get laid. And so these communities like devolve into like, nobody, like it's like crabs in a bucket almost, where it's like, oh, I've failed for so long that now you're going to fail too. Don't even try and fix yourself. I've been down that road, buddy. And so instead of getting constructive criticism, so if like there's a pedophile forum, like over time, you might start to be like, oh, well, look at that guy. He's way worse than me, and he seems kind of reasonable still. And you slowly start inching down, rationalizing your behavior and your desires. Like it seems really multifaceted, and that it could go either way really fast.
Yeah, it's 100% right. It's a deep topic, man, for sure.
Yeah, there's a website called verped.org for virtuous pedophiles.
Oh my God!
I linked it if you want to look at it, Kyle.
I tried to, but it wouldn't load for me.
It'll load. You just have to wait for like 5 or 6 seconds.
I'm a little scared to load it. If I'm
I'm already.
Is this gonna get me on some FBI list if I click this link? What is this?
No, there's going to be literal evidence of us talking about how much we dislike it. Like, we're fine. Like, we're good. Like this, but they take the same.
Why don't you tell me what's on this website, man?
Yeah, it says they take great pains to differentiate pedophiles rather from child molesters, which is kind of, what I've seen these kind of groups tend to do before, is that they're always like, oh, pedophiles are not necessarily child molesters, but it's one of those things where it's like, not all pedophiles are child molesters, but all child molesters are pedophiles.
Right.
Like,
so adjective versus verb. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What types of therapy? They say very common advice for pedophiles is get help. The implication is that professionals can cure the pedophilia if only the pedophile asks for help. Most experts believe that there is no way of making an attraction to children go away, just as there's no way to turn gay people straight, so an actual cure is impossible. But there are treatments that you can turn to help pedophile manage the condition and remain law-abiding. Talk therapies, and drug therapies to take the edge off. So it looks like they're almost like in a similar to what you said, Kyle. The therapy route.
Yeah, chemical castration works.
They were talking about drugs like SSRIs, like antidepressants and shit. I don't know if, let me see.
I've heard instances of convicted pedophiles agreeing to chemical castration in exchange for a lighter sentence.
Oh, you're right. Chemical castration is here.
What does
that mean?
I'm ignorant of chemical castration.
I think that Alan Turing guy.
It's just a pill that kills your sex drive and it makes you impotent, right?
Yeah, I think it maybe ruins you sexually, kind of permanently. I know that like the famous case of it is fucking Alan Turing, right? The guy who is in that movie, The Imitation Game, and basically he broke the German codes for the Brits in World War II, and probably helped win the war a lot faster. After the war, he was found to be a homosexual, and he was given the choice between chemical castration and like a prison sentence or something like that. And he chose the former and killed himself a couple years later. It's a real sad story.
It says here that chemical castration, most experts think it's reversible. So it's almost like you have to continue going for these like upkeep treatments in order to keep it active.
Well, we could always go with physical castration.
I didn't know that was how it worked.
That's what I thought you said. That's why I laughed.
Yeah, man. Have you ever seen a farm animal be castrated?
Yes.
It's they have this device. It looks like a large set of. It operates kind of like a large set of pliers, but when you squeeze, 4 prongs. I'm pointing toward the camera. Separate like this, and when they do, they're spreading a very powerful rubber band, like nothing you've ever seen before. It starts this tiny, but it stretches it out big enough to put over the bull's testicles, and then they release it, and it tightens over them, cuts the blood supply off, and then they fall off after a few days or whatever.
The ones I watched were like in the moment, like pin them down and cut them off, and cauterize it and let them back up. It was like for calves.
Yeah, that's pretty inhumane. I'd always seen the rubber bands used.
Yeah, that's really humane.
What do you guys feel about animal cruelty?
I really dislike animal cruelty. It's
bold position, yet so brave.
Yeah. No, it really...
I saw someone hit a dog. I saw somebody punch a dog the other day, and I said, "Hey, thumbs down to
thumbs
that."
Down to that.
Do that.
If this were a YouTube video, I'd share it and say, "Get a load of this guy." Like
sadistic people sadistic people in general are kind of scary. I don't understand sadism, the enjoyment from infliction of pain, whether it be on an animal or a person. Like you always hear that like the first step for like psychos and killers was often torturing animals. Yeah. And I'll read those. I'm sort of fascinated with those situations. So I've read a lot of Wikipedia articles and watched a lot of documentaries on Netflix.
Don't say.
I think that's part of the human condition. Like we want to know what the fringe is thinking, what makes them do that.
Yeah, and it hurts me almost as much to hear what they did to animals in their neighborhood as it does to hear what they did to their human victims. It's just fucked.